Hello everyone, welcome to part 4 of the horror games tutorials on Unreal Engine 5. So in this one I've decided to change things up a little bit. So what we're going to do is I'm going to add things into the scene and then show you how to interact with those parameters for that specific object within the level blueprint, so you understand how to control everything to do with each item or object that you place into the scene. It sounds complicated, but once you start to do it for yourself, you'll pick it up quite quickly. So, for example, if I place a point light into the scene, let's bring the attenuation down, which is the distance of projected light, and we lower the automatically produced directional light from the scene to 1. So here we have a simple light. So if you're making a horror game, you want lighting is so important. So what you want to do to affect any property or any attribute of this light within the level blueprint, everything that you can see in your details panel to the right is something that you can interact with within the level blueprint, which is here. So if I go to, let's say, if I open, there we go. If we add our light into the scene, so highlight it, right click, create reference. So this is basically like the scene, the level blueprint. Now we've added that point light in, so everything off this is everything that's basically in this panel, so you can affect all of these attributes within the level blueprint. So we can change intensity, go set intensity, so you see it there. And this is, in simple terms, this is just the details panel now. So the current intensity is 100, so if you set that down to, let's say, 10, and we want a light to, I don't know, become brighter and then explode, we can do that really simply. We just set intensity to, let's say, 100, and then we do a delay of, let's say, 2 seconds, and then you'd have, again, off your point light, you can copy and paste that with Control C, Control V, and then set visibility, light component, and then off. So then how this would work, if we do a quick simple code to fire this off, so the point light, the intensity will increase to 100. After 2 seconds, it will go off. And if you could add a sound to that, by just play sound at location. So we could do play sound at location. And then we'll do bulb break, which you've all heard before if you've seen the other 3 episodes. So you're kind of branching things together, you're linking them together, and you're making small events, but this is how simple it can be. So let's do it off event begin play, and then so it doesn't happen straight away, so we can see it, let's do a delay, and have it fire off after 5 seconds, and then we'll compile that. And if you wanted to get a bit more creative, Control C, copy, and you can even set color, set light color, and then you just go to here, and then you can change the light to any color that you want. So you can literally, all you're doing is controlling the attributes via the level blueprint. So the code is telling the light how to behave by the way or the properties that you've set within the level blueprint. And I've been told I have an ability to make things sound way too complicated, but I hope it makes sense. So all this is, instead of you controlling it here, you're just setting these settings within the level blueprint, because it can be quite complicated when you start with Unreal. I used Unreal, the first one, years ago, so I got kind of used to changing settings and adding things into scenes and, you know, manipulating objects. All self-taught. I never studied at college or university. Everything's just self-taught. But anybody can pick this up. You've just got to be determined to learn it. So when we begin the play session, it'll count to 5 with the delay. The intensity of the light will go from its default, which we've allowed it to be at 10. We can change that to 1. And then, actually, let's put that at 2. And then we'll drop the directional light down to 0, so we can see it happening. So if we go into, let's compile that, our level, and stand here, so you can see that the light after 5 seconds, so on event begin play, which is basically just a play session, so when we start the game, the clock counted to 5 on our delay. The intensity increased from 2 to 100 because we set it that way. Another thing we could do with this, I'll show you in a second, but and then we added another delay, so 2 seconds later. So you could do, let me think, you could do a play sound at location on here, like a overcharged light bulb, where you have like an overcurrent which causes something to explode. So it's a good effect, especially for a horror game if you're doing a quick jump scare. So we've got our delay, 5 seconds, intensity increase to 100, our 2-second delay, then we're playing the sound at location, which is the bulb breaking, and then the visibility is then being set to off, which then kind of simulates the bulb breaking. So it's gone. It's no longer emitting any light into the scene. Now we can randomly generate. So if you're having a playthrough and you want a little bit of randomness to your game, you could do a random floating range, and then you could do, let's say, you could do 20 or 200. So then it will pick, you can even go more random than that. So this is just going to basically pick a value between 20 for the intensity of the light source, between 20 and between 200. So a value between those two. It can either be 20 or 200 or any value in between. So that's what a random floating range does. And then you could do the same with this. And you could do, let's say, 4 seconds to 10 seconds. So it doesn't always start the code at the same time from playing. So you've got a little bit more randomness, a bit more control over how that will appear to the player. So it's never going to be the same every time you play the game, is what I mean. Another way to add jump scares, so let's increase our light source just so we can see, and I'll place a box into the scene so we can see where roughly the bulb is. Let's place that there, let's get the value, and then pop that box at its location. Okay, so let's say you are walking down a corridor and you I'd say your light breaks or the lights go off and when the lights turn back on, there's an object that appeared in front of you that wasn't there before. So to do that, you can let's see if I've got a lot of stuff to go through. Let's just add a little mannequin man into the scene. So here's our little T-posed mannequin man. It's made an appearance in my other videos. You can get him off Mixamo, including animations as well, for free. So what we do with him is we're going to scroll down to, let's say, let's type invisible. This is the one I want, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay. So we have our mannequin here. It's currently set as invisible, and we want him here. So when we go into our level blueprint, we can add our mannequin to our level blueprint by highlighting them in the scene, which is here. And let's give him a little pedestal to stand on as well. So let's make him visible for now. Copy this, and then we want his current world position, which is this one, and then we'll paste that there, and then move him down to the 4. Let's pop him there. So if you want something to appear in front of a player or surround the player, which you see in a lot of horror games, a good way to do that is you highlight your character or the object that you want to appear into the scene, and then can we do it off? Yeah, we'll do it off event begin play just for testing reasons. So we'll add him in. Where do we want to add our little mannequin character? So let's quickly do our set visibility, and then new. There's also another step that we need to take, because even though he's invisible and is not being rendered, he still has physics properties, so he'll still have a collision. So we'll adjust that, we'll go over that in a second. So we want him to be invisible, so visible, let's type in the right place, which helps. Nope. And then let's quickly test this by removing our random, so we just want, and we'll do 2 seconds. That'll do. So the light breaks, he's now set to visible, and then if we want to control him then becoming invisible, we can literally do that straight away with a delay. And then we can add 1 second to flash him on and off, and then we uncheck that box. So we have visible, 1 second passes, invisible. So I'll show you how that looks. And then he's gone. So you can see how you could utilize that in your own games. You could have a light flash on and he appears, and then he's invisible and he's gone. He could appear directly in front of the player. You could have it so when the player walks past, so let's let's get rid of this and this. It'll give us a message because it's an all-level blueprint. We'll get rid of all of this, and then compile, and then we can. That's our mannequin guy. Right. Okay. So let's say we want to walk through this. So let's say this is a corridor. Not him. This. Yep. And we want to. They want the player to walk past. Let's say there's a table. You see this in a lot of horror games. There's a table with a ringing phone on, and you've got to walk to the table and pick up the phone. But then when you turn around, there's something stood there that wasn't there before. So to do that, we want to add a trigger event, which is this one. So this would simulate where we walk to for our telephone. Let's say there's a little table. We may as well add it in. Table. That'll do. And then on there we have a phone of some sorts. Okay, we haven't got a phone, but yeah, we don't need one. It's fine. So we have our table, which is conveniently facing the wrong way. There we go. And our player has to walk towards this ringing phone down this path. So this is a very poor corridor. So at the end of this corridor is a wall. You can't go any further. And you've got a phone ringing. There's nothing else in the scene. He's going to be invisible. So how do we do that? So I'll show you. So what we're going to do is we need to turn off physics because we don't want him to be a collision asset. We don't want him to have any collision data at all. Otherwise, even though he's invisible, let me show you what I mean. So we're not rendering him as an image, but he is still going to excuse me, he is still going to be in the scene. So when we're walking, we'll collide with him and we can't go any further. So we don't want that. That's not good. So what we want to do is, now we can't see him at all because he's unrendered, so we need to make sure he's visible. So we need to check our mannequin and then check visible, just so we can see what we're working with. So highlight the character, mannequin, block, ghost, whatever it is you're using, demon, banshee. And then you're going to go down to collisions, and then we want no collision. And then we can go to visible, and now we can do our code. So there's our trigger box, into level blueprint, right click, create reference, no, right click, add, collision, begin overlap. And then off this, cast to first person character. So we know how this works. If you've seen my previous videos and you're learning, then you'll understand how this works. If you don't, this is basically just a way for the trigger to detect what object has walked into its box or its outline. We then go into, we need our mannequin for this, so we'll select him, because we can't see him in the scene, we'll select him here, and then right click, create reference, and then set visibility, and then we want this one checked, and then we're going to drop that in there. So you've guessed it, how it works. You know by now roughly how it works. It detects the player, it tells the game to now make this object visible. So let's show you how that works in game. So we're walking through the corridor, there's a phone ringing at the bottom, cliche I know, but I'm all out of ideas at this point. And as we walk towards it and stop, we know that there was nothing there as we walked towards the little small cabinet shelf thing, and when we turn around, we're faced with a lovely mannequin. There's a lot of ways you could use this. I mean, I don't want to make this video too long because it takes forever to process to HD, but I hope that helps in a sense. I'll show you a couple more things for your horror games. So let's say we want to give the player a cue that something spawned, so he turns around, and as the player turns around and steps out of this box, we want the mannequin to charge the player. So let's make him visible so we can see what we're working with. So instead of having him here, let's spawn him here. And let's get a little bit more creative. Okay, so let's add a light, a point light. Let's add the point light into the scene in his face, because he likes the light in his eyes, apparently. Let's pop that here. And so what we can do is we can right click on our light source and we can attach. Now instead of trying to find it in this list, even though it's there, we can use this little eyedropper tool and we can just select what we want to connect it to. And let's say we want to connect it to his head, so it's here. So no matter where I move him, the light will go with him. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So let's get a little bit creative with this code. And I mean, everything you see here, use in your own games, change it, edit it, make it your own. But this is going to be like a 20-part series. I'm going to give out as much information as my brain can possibly handle to try and help you guys make your horror games with lots of jump scares and lots of creative ideas. So what we're going to do now is we are going to animate him really easily to charge the player at high speed and then vanish when it gets to around here. So we're going to do a little bit of simple maths. So we're going to place him there, add a level sequence. Just type sprint. He's obviously not animated, he's just going to glide like a strange banshee with his arms out. So just name it sprint or ghost or slide or glide, whatever you want. And then we're going to select our character there, add to track, and then we want location, so we don't need rotation, we don't need scale. So to keep things clean, we can get rid of that. So we know we don't want on the Y, so we can delete that. And we know that we don't want him to go up into the sky like Rocket Man, so we can delete that. But yeah, we need to bring him back down. There we go. So it's the X value that we need for the X axis. So we want him to charge the player at quite high speed and then stop. So to do that, it's so simple to do. You just click this little button, which adds a keyframe. We want it to be over a 2-second period, and then we drag him to where we want him to go and let go, and then click that, and then we can see that he'll go from A to B over 2 seconds. We can make it faster really easily. Let's drag this end flag to the 2-second mark, and let's make him go like warp speed. So let's drop him down to there. And fast movement is usually scarier in a horror game. The quicker and the louder something is, the more likely you are to scare the player. So that's done. But now we need to edit this. So we want to go down to, we don't want to click autoplay. We want to go down so it says pause at end. Otherwise, if we don't, he'll go all the way to here and then he'll snap back like he's on a bungee rope. So we want him to pause and then vanish. So pause at end. So what we're going to do now is add our level sequencer into our level blueprint. So up here, level blueprint. So we know he's invisible, so he's now going to be visible. But we also want to play our sequencer. So play, and then we've got sequence player, and we want to excuse me, add maybe a delay, otherwise it will play too soon without giving a chance for the player to kind of like step out of the box. So we'll do a delay and add that in, and oops, and then we can add this in, but we're also going to do a, let's say 2 seconds, and then we're going to do a sound to try and get the player to turn around. So play sound at location, and then we want what sound can I use? Well, that'll do. Now, how this is going to work is, I hope you're still following along. We're going to detect the player. We know it's now the first person character that's walked into the box. It's going to wait 2 seconds. It's going to play the sound. The player hopefully turns around, but we can adjust that in a second as well. We'll do a short delay on this one, so it's not instantaneous. Add a 1 second on there, so we know when we hear the sound we've got 1 second cue. And then it's going to charge the player because he's going to play that animation that we set up in the level sequencer. And then we want that one to move. We want to swap position for this. We want set visibility first. And then we want a delay on the play. Otherwise it'll be too quick. And then we want to, let's give it a 2 second. And then we want to compile. And then we know that the animation, well, we can check that. So if we go into our animation, so if we highlight that there, and then we can check to see how long the animation is. So it's just less than a second, so 0.8. So close that. So we want this one again, there, with a delay, again. So Control C, copy, Control V, paste. And we want to connect that there and connect that there with a new visibility set to off. So you'll understand in a second. Well, now we know the animation is 0.8 seconds. So we don't want it to hang around and create awkward silence. So we want it to be a 1 second delay. And that should theoretically work. Obviously he's in game, because what we didn't do, because I'm silly, is we want to make him invisible again. We don't want him to be visible. So we do that. So we know he's here. He's not rendered, he's got no physics, so we can't interact with him. We walk to the end of the corridor, we'll hear a sound play behind us. Actually, I need to do that. So we get our mannequin, which is this one, and we need to go into level blueprint. We want the sound to play at his location. So create reference, right click, and get world location, and then drag that there. That goes into the location value on here. So that sound will play behind us. So if you have 3D surround or 5.1 or surround sound headset, this audio will be behind you, so you'll have an idea of where it's coming from. Now that'll work. So let's stick to conformity here and actually walk down our corridor. So the player's walking down the corridor, the phone's ringing. As we walk towards, we know we're going to step into a trigger box. And then he flies towards the player. Now you can change that, edit that, have that however you like. So let's make it a little bit more like a horror game. And let's directional light. No, we want that to be, let's say 0.5, and then let's test this again. So we walk down the corridor, walk to the end. And then he flies towards a player. So to edit that, to change any of those values, you just go into here. You can make him go quicker by adjusting this slider. So you can see if I make him visible in here, and then you can see how fast he'll move towards the player. Let's test that to see what the difference is. I will leave him as visible for now. And you can see he moves a lot faster towards the player. So you can change, edit it however you like, all of those values. I'm probably going to say that's it for this video, but yeah, I hope that helps. I hope this gives you some ideas. But yeah, I'll get working on part 5. So this would be part 4. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments. Please like, please share and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel grow. Thanks for all the support. You take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers for watching. Thanks. Bye bye.